And this is what even is a 6th gen fighter anyway? This is, I'm guessing, in answer to China's video. I'm pretty sure I made a longer video about that China 6th gen plane. Now I reacted to a video about like a 6th gen Chinese plane from a channel. Battleground something, I forgot, like Binko's Battleground. Yeah, that's like in recommended one. Okay. And after a day or so, a lot of Chinese comment on that was just like, oh, this and that, and just like I don't even know, like, okay, I don't remember saying anything negative about China's 2nd gen plane. And people just like, oh, India versus China, oh, India can't even hope to do that. Yeah, I know, right? I've said this many times, like, China is so ahead, India is not in competition, not even close, right? Like, China's economy is 20 trillion, US's economy is 40 trillion, India's is like 3 or 4 or something like that, right? 5th place or something, I don't even know, right? 2 or 3, I don't even know what the number is, but something like that, because even Germany is like 5th, 5 trillion or something, which is 3rd place. 3rd place is 4 or 5 trillion, or 2nd place is 20 trillion, 1st place is 40 trillion USA. So USA China competing makes sense. India is not even in competition, I know that. So again, like, watch my video, like, watch what I say, see the nuance behind it, I guess. But then again, like, none of this matters, right? People are going to comment what they're going to comment, so I don't know. So yeah, about this 6th gen, like, I'm pretty sure he's made a million videos about the SANDBOXX already. So in summary, what I think about after watching all the SANDBOXX videos, like what I've gathered, 6th gen usually just mean like a certain level of advancement in like range, radar, and like drones. Like that creates a picture if you really think about it, because fighting is not even a point at 6th gen. Like, you're so far away, right? You're probably not even the horizon, that's how far away you are, and you have a missile and a radar that can like really pinpoint a target very easily. Not to mention, it can have this hive mind ability with other planes and other things, right? Even the satellites. So you can have a really heavy ass plane. You don't need to worry about dogfighting and nimbleness that much, because that will never be the case, right? And you need drones with that, right? And obviously like Barracuda and all those missiles. I'm pretty sure China has like other plane, or I don't know. There is an information, as far as I can remember, that China has other plane that it's working or something, which is like really big and heavy or some shit like that, because of this purpose. Like, it doesn't need to be nimble. It's 6th gen, so it could be like that. So block 4, block 5, I forgot, from F-35. That's gonna make it like 6th gen because of the drones and things. Maybe not 100% 6th gen, because certain things you need to make it from scratch in order to qualify that. Who the fuck knows? So NGAD is going to be proper 6th gen. But yeah, but I said that in the Chinese video, like, this is going to like push America. Okay, you know what, let's make NGAD again. Wars are becoming a thing now. China and Taiwan thing might happen. In US don't want to be a country, but they don't have the 6th gen, but China does.
So what even is a 6th generation fighter? After China unveiled its newest aircraft in development last week, there's been a great deal of discussion online about 6th generation fighters.
See, that's the whole point. Look at that. See, look at how big it is compared to this one. It's a big ass plane. But then again, it makes sense. Like I said, nimbleness is not going to be a point.
And just how much better they'll be than 5th generation platforms like today's F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. But the truth is, fighter generational designations are sort of more marketing malarkey than they are technical classifications. And that may even be more true of 6th generation fighters today than any past generation. Fighter generational designations haven't actually been around for all that long. They really...
Yeah, things are nuanced, right? Like, if China's 6th generation plane doesn't even have the radar cross, like, small enough compared to F-35, F-22, and those are 5th generation, like, is it a 6th generation? But then again, it might have like really advanced radars, it might have like really long range, it can have like drone capabilities and all that. So maybe it's a 6th generation. Like, designation is like what you prioritize first. That's the thing.
First started to catch on in the early to mid 1990s thanks to two different groups of people. The first were historians like Richard Hallion, who were looking backward and trying to classify different eras of specifically jet-powered fighters. And that is an important distinction to make. Prop-driven fighters like the P-51 Mustang or Supermarine Spitfire don't exist within this generational classification, or maybe you might call them Generation Zero fighters. But the first generation of fighters, according to these generational designations, were the first to be powered by turbojet propulsion. Platforms like the Me-262 or the P-80. But by the 1990s, those historians were joined by another group who were also interested in these generational designations. And that group was mostly the US Air Force and Lockheed Martin, who were actively developing and fielding a new fighter that was so much more capable than even the best jets in service at the time, that they needed to find some way to convey this generational leap in capability. And thus, the F-22 Raptor emerged as the world's first fifth-generation fighter. And in a real way, stealth fighters like the F-22 helped bring these generational designations into the common nomenclature. But once that happened, the meanings behind these generational designations got murkier than ever, because there is no overarching governing body that decides exactly what technologies.
Exactly. It's like people always have this like misconception, like this is like a football match or like Olympics or something. There's like a judgmental body in middle of everything, even when it comes to like global things where all countries are their own thing, right? There's a central power who judges everything. No, it's not. Right? Okay, who's gonna decide? Like people even like squabble over like okay, which currency is like tether currency, right? Because after World War II, dollar became the currency and everything was tied behind it. But China is like trying to go away, right? Pulling away from that. But Russia already pulled away because like they're completely doing different thing with the sanctions and things. Many countries might follow that. So there is no one tether thing that decides anything, right? It's going to become more apparent in the future. So it's like sixth generation, what you call it. And even if somebody creates some kind of like a body that decides it, some other countries, we don't acknowledge that. Like, I don't care. We're going to call this sixth generation. Like, who's going to say what, right? Even in the global affairs, people like talk about this is what should happen, this is what must happen. It's just like, who's going to decide that? Like, why are you acting like there's a central body that's going to like give judgments or something? This is insane. And nobody was saying like, oh, F-15 is fourth generation, this is third generation. This is like a very, very recent thing, right? I don't know.
Are required for each of these generational designations, and as such, each organization, each company, each nation can even use their own criteria. In fact, China doesn't even recognize the generations in the same way that we do, and they see stealth fighters like their J-20 or America's F-35 as fourth generation instead, basically because they just chose a different starting point. And even today,
exactly, like imagine China just acknowledging what America started doing, like fourth generation, fifth generation, calls this sixth generation. It's like, okay, so you're just literally following what America just picked up. Like somebody just picked up, oh, by the way, this is that generation, right? So China's not going to do that, obviously.
The requirements to be considered a fifth-generation fighter are still subject to some debate. The most commonly accepted criteria to be a fifth-generation fighter include a design that prioritizes stealth from the onset, rather than making changes to improve stealth later on down the road. They also require a high degree of sensor fusion, or the ability to collect information from sensors internal to the aircraft and external from other airborne or surface-based sensors, and fuse it all into a single easy-to-consume feed. But early on, there were other requirements.
Yeah, I don't think like countries like China would even care about what to call what as far as it works. Countries only worried about if it works in a certain way that they want it to. As far as generation can go, I think I see it in a way like generation changes when the whole goal of it changes, not just few changes. So fifth generation was like stealth related, whether it's like hiding away from radar or stealthily taking out something from long distance. That was stealth. Sixth generation is going to be something like a plane is like a mothership, surrounded by drones and things. A plane itself doesn't do much, but just sends out drones and things, communicate with multiple things, stay away from really far away. Basically how a fleet works in ocean, right? That's how sixth generation gonna work. That's what I'm thinking. That's why a bomber can be sixth generation, right? B-21 or whatever. So NG-80 can be sixth generation. They can all work basically the same. right? Can have like swarms of drones conduct shit like a mothership or whatever, like how aircraft carriers are in like a fleet.
Things like the ability to supercruise or maintain supersonic speeds without the use of the afterburner. But then the F-35 emerged as the most technologically advanced fighter on the planet, but lacking in the ability to supercruise. And for a time, some people even argued that that meant the F-35, again, the most advanced jet in service in the world, didn't meet the criteria for the 5th generation. But ultimately, the criteria just sort of shifted to match the aircraft in service. And that sort of confusion only gets worse the closer to the cutting edge you get, with today's 6th generation fighters really having no generally accepted criteria, with the exception of maybe lacking in standing vertical tail surfaces, which could also be considered all-aspect stealth. Now, the idea behind getting rid of those standing vertical tail surfaces is really twofold. The first,
yeah, B2 level shit, like bomber type shit, because you don't need agility. Those things will make impossible to have a plane agile like that. Maybe some technology can make it somewhat, but no way in hell like F-22 or F-35. But then again, like I said, why would it be under attack like that? It's going to be either attacked by missile from a long range or nothing, right? Because it's going to attack from long range. There's not going to be dogfighting even close to it.
It makes the aircraft even less detectable against low-frequency early warning radar arrays that couldn't target a stealth fighter, but could tip air defenders off that there's a stealth fighter in the area. And the second is reducing the aircraft's radar cross-section from other angles of observation aside from head-on, as stealth fighter designs usually prioritize. By getting rid of those standing vertical tail surfaces, these new fighters would be much more difficult to detect and to target from the side, for instance. And based on the way the media has responded to China's latest aircraft in testing, it sort of seems like people have decided that's the only requirement for a 6th generation fighter, despite the fact that Europe's Tempest is touted as a 6th generation aircraft, but you could argue that it has YF-23 style standing vertical tail surfaces. So what else could we use to determine an aircraft is truly 6th generation? Well, the next most commonly accepted criteria is the ability to control and operate AI-enabled drone wingmen. In other words, the aircraft has to have the requisite systems on board to give directives to these AI-enabled wingmen for them to go on and execute, which may come in the form of a touchscreen display in the cockpit, or if Lockheed Martin has their way, voice control systems that you can use over the radio. But even that capability
Voice control. Oh god. Let's hope it's better voice control than what we had in phones, even still to this day. Because in phones, if voice control fails, you'll try again. In that controller, if voice control fails, it will blow up something that you didn't want to, or blow up your, ally or some shit. Oh, that's not what I meant. Target this. Oh, not that. Obviously it's going to be much better than that, because it's like a cockpit. It's going to be like, they can really like soundproof it in a way that voices can be distinguished, right? They can make something that, I have a DJI mic, right? I don't know what the fuck, there you go, right? I have a DJI mic that I use, Mic Mini, the latest one. And this thing has like a noise cancellation that is so fucking ridiculous. Music is blasting in gym, right? Where if I were talking to somebody literally like a half a feet from me, that guy can't hear what I'm saying. Yeah, this mic picks up only my voice and barely something in the background, and I can edit it where basically nothing's in the background. If this can do this, right? Like, I'm pretty sure like they can create, like military can create something top notch shit. But then again, I'm pretty sure like voice control should be like loose things. Like, unless it's 100% sure with a fail safe, like you can type something in like touchscreen or something. I think that should be the case.
Ability is expected to be fielded first in the 5th generation F-35, so it alone would not constitute being considered a 6th generation aircraft. And there are other technologies that could find their way into this list of 6th gen requirements. One technology I think has a solid shot at making the cut is adaptive cycle engines. This is sort of like VTEC for tactical turbofans. These engines function in different operational modes, with a high fuel efficiency, low thrust mode that's good for maximizing the amount of range or the amount of loiter time you can get out of the fuel you carry on board, and then a high thrust, low fuel efficiency mode to maximize power output when you need it most. And this is one area where the United States has a commanding lead, thanks to GE's XA100 and Pratt & Whitney's XA101, both adaptive cycle turbofan engines that have already demonstrated double-digit improvements in both thrust output and fuel efficiency over previous advanced engines like...
Yeah, variable output is like, this is what variable turbos did, right? There used to be like a, I don't know what it's called, a static turbo, whatever. That was the case for a long time before variable turbos came, which basically like managed that way, the managed power that way with ECU and everything, which increased fuel efficiency ridiculously, reduced emissions and increased power, right? If you have a car that produces 140 horsepower, a variable turbo car, similar car with the variable turbos with similar size can have like something like 170 horsepower. So yeah, variable timings like that is obviously great. Achieving that is obviously hard. That's why, like you said, US is at the lead. Obviously other countries will follow, but yeah, the level of precision that would require at this scale would be ridiculous. So I'm sure there's going to be failures here and there before they can achieve it 100%.
Like the F-35's Pratt & Whitney F-135 turbofan. Another possibility is truly open system software architecture. Previous fighter designs, up to and including 5th generation jets like the F-22, have really had their software and hardware married to one another. So if you want to make a significant update to the software on board, you need to swap out physical components. That adds a lot of time, complexity, and cost to upgrades. But open system software architecture not only makes it easier and cheaper to field these upgrades, but it also allows for other firms to step in and pick up where the original firm left off, allowing for more competitive contracting. And
think of like Apple computers compared to basic desktop that you can, create yourself. Assembling a desktop. I've been doing that for decades now. When it comes to Apple, love it, or just buy another one, right? Like how Tim Cook says, buy your mother an iPhone. In this case, buy your mother another Mac or something, because old shit is not going to be replaceable, right? You have to replace the whole thing. So yeah, it's going to be annoying. The same way going to apply here with F-22 and things. That's why people say like F-22 is not that much upgradable for this reason.
And some real science fiction fans even argue that 6th generation fighters should be capable of suborbital flight. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. So, what is a 6th generation?
What about space lasers though? Right? What about Darth Vader's suit system and all that shit? 6th generation should have all of that shit.
Fighter. Well, the real answer is just about anything you want to call a 6th generation fighter could be, because there is no official definition. In fact, Northrop Grumman is even calling their B-21 Raider, which is a heavy payload strategic bomber, the world's first 6th generation aircraft. And lots of people online are calling...
It's like, what was that, like before 5G came? Certain people call that 4G something, 5G, there's a relabel there. It's called 5G something, 5GE or something. I don't even know what the fuck that was. We just call it 5G so they can just say like, our thing is 5G. No, it's not.
China's new aircraft in testing, a 6th generation fighter as well, even though all we really know about it right now is that it doesn't have any standing vertical tails. At the end of the day, these terms are really meant to be more of a shorthand that allows you to quickly know what era a tactical aircraft was fielded in, not really to assess who has the best air force. Because no matter how good a dozen 6th generation fighters are, 100 4th generation fighters would still beat them. Heck, 100 3rd generation fighters might. There are just so many variables to consider when comparing military power and military technology that fighter generational designations should be seen as one tool among many, rather than the only thing that matters. And if you ask me, we won't really know what a 6th generation fighter is until 2 or 3 of them are already in service. Then we can look at the capabilities that set them apart from 5th generation aircraft. Take that list and find the commonalities among all of the airframes in service, and we can use that list to form a general consensus.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, I mean, sixth generation what you want it to be. I guess it makes sense, but like my thumb rule is always like it has to like change how it acts completely. Fifth generation, everything was stealth, including long distance attack and everything like that. Sixth generation gonna be like what I said, like how fleet works on an ocean. Stay away, far away, be a mothership, have a swarm of drones, have missiles that can go really high range with a jet engine inside, rather than like what is it called, like a rocket or something, those barracuda missiles and all that, with a long ass range and everything, satellite, ship, other plane communication and all that, like happening in milliseconds, even faster, right? That's going to be sixth gen. Infrastructure is going to be really crucial for that, because if you have like all things at place, that's when you can utilize it the best. You can have sixth generation, but if you don't have the infrastructure for it, like it can't utilize all its power. Well, that was what even is a 6th gen fighter anyway. Watch your SANDBOXX. If you like my subscribe, and I'll see you next time.